So how do I get my dog on the ceiling of this?
You just email me your dog's face and I'll throw someone's cats off. That's it.
Okay. We are here with Eugene Remm, who started Catch and most recently Corner Store, which has gone pretty viral. Everyone's talking about it in New York. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank you for
today.
having me.
One of the things that you've said before, and I think this is so interesting, is you really understand the life cycle of a restaurant and how things come, into trend and out of trend.
Yeah.
But you've also been able to keep Catch popular and trendy for so long.
Right.
I mean, what is the secret sauce to making something buzzy and interesting?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? Because trends become fads and fads fade, right? So there's only one thing you can do. When a trend trends up, the only thing you could do is stabilize it, and then it becomes something iconic. So what is the definition of a brand? It's a promise. It's a promise that you're going to have some sort of consistent experience from the beginning to the end. And 13 years, Catch has been here, 300 seats, and there's a promise that every time you go to Catch, that you're going to have a great experience. And that's a constant evolution of always focusing on menu development, always focus on the key people that work in the space, always updating everything. So there was once, and look, when Catch opened, there was no social media, there was no Instagram, or none that I'm aware of, right? So when people say that, oh, you're an Instagram brand, it's like actually not true, because when we opened, there was no Instagram. So that's an interesting thing that people talk about that. But I think the key is when you trend up, you have to stabilize, and then you just have to stay there. And there's some iconic brands like Cipriani or Hillstone and people who are just constantly great, and at Four Seasons and other brands like that. So that's the world that you want to be in. And they will always fade a little down and a little up, but you don't want to be too much of a swing, because if you swing too much, you never can stabilize.
So when you talk about stabilizing, though, does that mean trying to slow down the popularity of a brand, or what does that mean?
It means the key to greatness is consistency. So at some point, you have to find a consistent product and deliver a consistent service. So it means that you never go too far on one thing. So for example, the Hit Me Cake is such a big part of the social media for Catch. It was an accident. We just like to hit something, and it made a little splash, and we thought it was fun, and then everyone started to take a video of it. But it doesn't mean then you make 10 more Hit Me Cakes. In fact, you probably go the other way around, start making desserts that are a bit more subtle and not so Instagrammable, to make sure you're not just following a trend. You want to create trends, not follow trends.
Interesting. Okay, so rather than lean into that, you're thinking about what's next.
Correct. At a time when everybody wanted to take a picture in LA through our hallway, that wasn't a thing, and now every place does it in every single one of their stores. So now we don't do it in any of our stores. So we're moving away from it. So I think whatever got you here won't get you there. So if you are not evolving with your brand is dying. And you have to constantly try to, now remember, there's a cruise ship and a jet ski. A cruise ship is a big company, so Catch is a big brand. So the good news about a cruise ship is you can take a lot of people and you can go very far. The bad news is it's a little harder to turn. Jet ski, small.
Don't want to hit the iceberg.
Yeah, jet ski, small, you could turn, you could pivot, so you can make changes on the fly. But for a brand like Catch, we have to move. It's a little slower, but when we move with a point of view, and we try to get all of our stores to connect to that. So if you look at the newest Catches, for example, Miami, it's a completely different point of view than maybe the original Catch in the Meatpacking District. It's a 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. dinner location. There's no nightlife. It's a $40 more check average experience, because it's just a higher end experience, because we are a higher end group than we were 15 years ago. And that's the evolution of the Catch hospitality brand.
Okay, and are there any other viral moments that you've created? I think that's so interesting. We talk about the cake. And are you thinking about how to create a viral moment when you're introducing new menu items, or does it just happen organically?
The truth is, in the past, we have focused on what would make a good Instagram moment, and every time we have, we've failed. And the other truth is, when we focus on creating great dishes that people are going to love because they're truly tasty and delicious, those are the ones that become the most iconic moments. So for example, the Corner Store, our newest location, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, it's so TikTok friendly, it's all over social media. But the reality is, we did absolutely nothing to promote it on social media. We only have 9 posts on our entire page. I think I did 1 post about it before we even opened, right? So it's interesting that people are now saying because it is popular, it means it was built for TikTok. And that's not the case, because if you look at all of our plating is simple, all of our design is super simple, and just people who like it are choosing to share that through their social media, because that is a form of writing a review. That's a form of wearing your brand on your shirt. So by posting it, they're acknowledging that they like it, but that doesn't mean that we were designing it for that. Quite the opposite. I think for the corner store, it was the truest and most authentic way for us to communicate what a New York City joint was going to look like and what a small restaurant was going to look like. Remember, we have 600 seats within 3 blocks here in the meatpacking district, so people are a little surprised. They're like, oh, how are you so busy so soon? I mean, like, we cater to 350 people every single day for the past 13 years at Catch New York. And the idea that we couldn't be busy in a 70-seat restaurant, we just have a lot of demand, and we have a lot of people who support the brand and have for years. So now people who were 30, 15 years ago, they're 45. They have colleagues that are 25. They have parents who are 65. And we really are able to hit all the different demographics. And that's what has made Corner Store so interesting. Also the cuisine, particularly. It's a New York City joint. Everything you understand, all the New York dishes that you like, with a touch of nostalgia to make it a little bit of fun. And that's unapologetic, by the way. Some people will say, like, oh, you're being kitschy. No, we're just being happy. And I think it's okay to have a little bit of fun with food. It doesn't need to be taken so seriously. Now, the execution of the food needs to be taken seriously. But if you want to make hot cream cheese croutons, you should have the right to do so, and you shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be held against you. And I think they've come out great, and people have sincerely and authentically enjoyed it.
Well, it kind of feels like a fresh twist on the Polo Bar, too. It's downtown, it feels a little younger than what the Polo Bar is offering. Was that inspiration?
I think there's like probably 20 restaurants that I can use for inspiration, but I would say, look, I'm happy to be in the conversation with any of these iconic restaurants. So when people compare us to some of the great restaurants of New York, I'm certainly not sad about it, and I'm certainly take it as a compliment. But I think by having our own spin on it, that is what makes it ours, and it's authentically ours. We are not trying to replicate anyone else's business. Now, you take little pieces of other places that you've been to, but you know, fries are fries, and fries are in the fanciest restaurant, and fries are in your kid's cafeteria, right? So I think any opportunity to be compared to some of the best restaurants in New York City, we take it as a true compliment, but we authentically wanted to create something that had our own lane.
And when you talk about, you know what you want to create, how do you come up with that idea? I mean, are you sitting around a table? Because obviously it's amazing as a customer just to walk in and experience the thing, but clearly there's a lot of thought that goes into something like that before you start a restaurant. Did you know, okay, I have this huge brand, I want to have something that's a little bit more nimble and exclusive? What was the sort of genesis for that?
You know, I've been asked this question a few times, and I think you have to reflect back because you don't even know where you were a year ago, and now when things are moving so fast, you forget how you even got here. But I think the piece of real estate was something that was special and iconic, and we saw that corner and we thought it was a great opportunity. It's also something that we wanted as individuals, a smaller space, something in Soho, something that was a little bit more for a neighborhood. And we thought there was an opening in that cuisine. It was a cuisine that we loved, and obviously we have Catch and we have Catch Steak, so that hits all the marks on the sushi and big steakhouse kind of vibes. But there was nothing that was just comfort food and classic American with a little bit of a vibe. And yes, the market has pivoted where smaller restaurants are more exclusive, and we wanted to make sure that we were part of that conversation. So this was our first time in 13 years that we have opened anything that was under 200 seats. So the smallest place that we had before that was Catch Steak in Aspen, and that was considered small to us at 200 seats, and this is at 70 seats, a much smaller product.
You know, obviously, you know a lot of interesting people. There's part of making a restaurant popular is bringing in celebrities and having those kind of relationships. How have you developed that?
It's a funny question, right? Because we create things that we like and we want our friends to like. And I can honestly say that there's no intent of saying, hey, I hope this celebrity or that celebrity likes it. I don't think Nike or Apple or Range Rover is thinking, hey, I want to make stuff that celebrities are going to use. I think they just make great products and great people use them. And if those great people are heads of banks or heads of PR firms or heads of talent agencies or celebrities themselves, I think celebrities like what everyone else likes. So if it's likable by most people that are in the circle of those people, then it's going to be liked by them. I don't think there's never an intent to say, hey, how do we attract celebrities? That is a result of creating a great product. That is not what you do and then create a great product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So it's more really just an organic thing that you're curating and like letting your friends know this is happening, and it's word of mouth.
We've been doing this for 20 years in New York City, so we've we've created a group of people that support us, that do a lot of different things and are connected to all places of the world. So if their reach is into entertainment, if their reach is into music, if their reach is into sports, if they like it, they're going to become ambassadors of what we do, and they're going to shout it out from the rooftop. And that's not easy, because most of these people are incredibly particular and are quick to dismiss anything new. So when you get them to love something because they genuinely love it, then they become your biggest advocate. And that is where a brand, that's like putting gasoline on a fire.
No, but these are not the easiest people to deal with, I would imagine. They have very high expectations, want to be treated a certain way. So I imagine that's a real challenge.
Well, no, I have high expectations and I want to be treated a certain way. So I feel that if I can meet my own expectations and the expectations of our team, then we can meet the expectations of our guests. And we are probably a little bit insane on the level of how we take care of the people that have taken care of us for the past 16 years. It's the core of who we are. So our attention to detail on the food, the attention to detail on the guests and who's coming in is super important. And the last thing on earth we want to do is to burn any of those relationships. We spent 20 years making it, and one bad experience can ruin 20 years. I don't know, I think it was Warren Buffett who said, you spend a lifetime to build a reputation and a moment to lose one. So I think the same goes in the restaurant business. Unfortunately, by the way, I think you should be given passes a little bit, but I don't think that's the world we live in today.
No, you're right. People are so quick, though, to jump to conclusions, or they have one bad experience and they think a restaurant's getting droopy, and maybe they just forget about it for a long time.
And I remember back in the day, like if Pete Wells was going to do a review on a restaurant, he'd give a restaurant a month, 2 months to get their feet on the ground and to get themselves settled in. And I find that anyone who has an opinion of the restaurant, they need to get there in the first week, because they want to amplify that they're the first ones there, but they don't give a restaurant a chance to get their footing. Now, I'm not saying that's right, I'm not saying that's wrong, but it just makes the stakes much higher, and you have to elevate at a much faster pace. You don't get 30 days to get your kinks out. People expect it out of the gate, and if you hit it, again, gasoline on a fire. If you don't hit it, it's water on a fire. It just puts it out.
That's interesting that now you have such a narrow window to make something hot or not.
As this business gets more difficult and as there is more competition, the only thing that differentiates you is how quickly you can get yourself to a good place. So we launch, we listen, we learn. People used to say like, oh, like what are you going to do in this restaurant? Is it going to be like this? Is it going to be like that? I'll say the restaurant will answer it for me. Our job is not always to come up with the ideas. Our job is to listen to the way the room feels, to the way people walk in, to how they sit. Then we launch, we listen, and we learn, and we adapt. And you have to make those adaptations incredibly fast.
I'm sure. No, but I mean, it's so much harder to actually practice what you preach and make it happen, as opposed to just like sitting back and opining on how you want something to be.
In order to be the best at anything, I think it has to be hard. And I think, for example, my partner Tillman Fertitta has been doing this for 40 years. We've been doing this for 18 years. At this stage, we have to be able to execute in a fast pace in order to be successful. Otherwise, we wouldn't be around this long.
And it's interesting too, because Catch obviously started in New York, but you've scaled and you're continuing to scale.
Yeah.
Do you approach each city as a unique place, or do you think that sort of your recipe and your secret sauce that you offer here is what you want to offer in any other city? And I know you've also expanded some to the Middle East, I believe, as well.
So right now we have New York, LA, Aspen, Vegas, Miami. We're opening Dallas, and we're opening Scottsdale. So those are the markets that we're currently in. I think when it comes to how we train and the cuisine, that is consistent between all Catch properties, because again, a brand is a promise and we need to create some consistency between all those markets. When it comes to the real estate, when it comes to how we strategize the books, when it comes to how we strategize how we hire, when it comes to how we think about the music, the lighting, and things like that, they're very localized. And I think every market has its own nuances, but the base is the same. The base is like, hey, we need great food, great service, and great vibe. The base is we need to come in there with an energetic and enthusiastic approach to the local market, not like we're like this big time group from New York and LA, but hey, we're in your town. And Aspen was a great example of that, where they hate brands and they, and they hate places that aren't local, and we knew that going in. So our approach going into that market was just say, hey, we're going to win one guest at a time. We're going to do this hand-to-hand combat. We're going to put together a great team of local operators from the Aspen market, and we're going to win them. And I think what we've been able to do there is just spectacular, and I think the team there executed better than we could have ever imagined. And that is the blueprint on how we go into every local market. That's the only way. In the last 6 months, we opened Miami, 8,000 square feet on south of 5th. We've opened a second concept, the Corner Store, and then we opened Dallas on November 7th, 8th, 9th-ish. And then we go back to Miami to open up an extended 6,000 square foot rooftop with an additional 180 seats. So it's daunting if you don't have structures, systems, and processes, but it's also daunting if you don't have some consistency between how you open them. But having such a big organization, that's the advantage of a big organization. And that's the advantage to having a partner like Tillman Fertitta and Landry's and 40 years of experience that allows us to think bigger, and not just bigger in size, but also bigger in time, where we don't need to make decisions of what we need to do for the next 6 months, but for the next 6 years.
Okay, and so having that partnership then has been instrumental, you think, to growing and to maintaining this brand?
People ask me a lot about, what's the one advice you would give to a young entrepreneur or someone that's starting out in the business? And I say, have great partners, and have partners who are great at things that you don't do, and have mentors that will support you, not when only things are good, but when things are challenging. So our partnership with Tillman Fertitta started in 2017. So we went through the boom of 2017 to 2019. We went through the challenges of COVID. We went through the recovery and the post-boom of COVID. And now we're going through a stabilization and challenges in some of the New York and LA markets. And I think having partners that get it, that will support you when things are good and when things are bad, when things are just challenging, that's a true definition of a partnership, and that's the only reason to have a partner, in my opinion.
How many texts or calls do you get each day from people wanting a reservation?
It's been a lot. We've been doing this for 18 years, and every time we open something, I wonder if I'll ever get used to it, and if I'll ever just assume that it will not happen again. But this has been extreme. And the good news and the bad news is we have a really wonderful team and a wonderful system on how we put them in. The bad news is there's simply 70 seats. So by saying yes and by saying no, it's ultimately not by me judging you or wondering, whether you should or shouldn't. It's truly just from a lack of space. And that's an interesting dynamic that we never really had to deal with before, because with 300, 400 seats, you can make things work
a lot of
for
people
happy. Yeah, you can make a lot of people happy. And I'm a yes person. I want to keep people happy and I want to take care of people. But the limitedness of this has been very interesting, and I'm grateful, right, to have so many people excited about the brand, talking about the brand, excited about something new that we're doing. It's just a true testament to the team and how hard everyone's working.
But it puts you in a new spot that you haven't really experienced before.
On this level, yeah. I mean, I think there's nothing. I have not seen anything to the level of what I have seen with the Corner Store in my professional career.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been overwhelming in the most positive way, but it's also something you need to protect and maintain and make sure that now that you have something that people are excited for, now you have to meet their expectations. So every day at pre-shift, all we talk about is that guest at 501 has been searching through Resi and refreshing to hit that reservation. So we have to execute. Otherwise, that falls very quickly. So we've been hot, we've been not. We've been through every single cycle in the phase of the restaurant business, and we know you have to maintain that quality from every single guest, especially now, especially when people are waiting so long to try to get a reservation. We have to execute.
Very high expectations.
High expectations on our side and on theirs.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. You, and I'd love for you to speak to this a little bit in more detail, just in terms of like the life cycle of a restaurant, the way you talk about where it's like, maybe you have a year where it's super hot and you have to maintain that so that it has longevity. So people are going to be wanting to go for the next 10 years, and having that initial moment of something being really exciting and exclusive, that can sort of maintain over a longer period of time. If you get some of these good headlines about like Taylor Swift or Gigi Hadid coming, that's going to last a while, and people are going to want to have that experience in 5 years from now, right? If you get that kind of moment. How are you thinking about Corner Store and Catchick in terms of that life cycle?
Yeah, I mean, look, 13 years in New York City, 7 years in Los Angeles, we know how to keep consistency. I think what I would say is this: there are some restaurant groups that are great at food and service and not great at vibe. There are some vibe restaurants that are amazing at that and aren't the best at food and service. The people that are able to execute all three for a consistent amount of time, those are the ones that have longevity. And the effect of celebrity X or Y coming into your space in the first year, I don't know that it lasts anymore, because I feel like the news cycles go so fast that people literally do not care what happened yesterday. And if you are not relevant of today, then you don't matter. I will say though, that's one type of guest. There's another type of guest that when they find something that they love and that they're taken care of, they become creatures of habit, and that becomes the place where they go to. And to me, that's the core customer that we're looking for, and that's the customer that can stay with us. And I do think those are the customers that have been with us for the past 18 years, and they continue to grow. Now their kids are our customers, and now their wives are our customers, and all of that. So I think the only way to have longevity is to hit all 3 points at the same time: food, service, and amazing experiences. And I think if you don't, you're challenged. And I think about it like a dumbbell approach, right? On the high end, there's always room on the high end for the next fabulous, amazing thing, and there's always room on the low end for affordable, quick serve, sweet green, fast casual, McDonald's, Burger King. I think everything that's in the middle without a really strong point of view, that's gonna die. And people are gonna either choose to trade up to an experience, and for the corner store, for example, or for Catch, for some people, that's just their anniversary dinner because it's a big night out and that's when they wanna spend their funds, and for some people, that's just their Tuesday dinner, right? And I think that's the way you have to think about it.
Interesting. You talked a little bit about some of the ebbs and flows and touched on COVID. How has that changed New York? How has that changed people's dining habits here?
So I think New York had a really tough challenge after COVID. I think it was a disaster, and I think it was really hurtful to the core of what New York stands for. And I think only now, 5 years later, are we starting to get ourselves out of that, and you can start to, and I can't put any tangible thing on it. I don't have any particular point of data, but I can just say that it feels like the New York of old, and it feels like a New York that's excited to go out and do things. But look, there's less density, and people talk about the jobs reports all the time, right? So we're 7% less than we were in 2019, even today, and 60% of all restaurants are still understaffed. So you do not have the people who want those jobs back at work. What you also have is a challenge that people are only in office 3 days a week instead of 5. So just if your entire business was from people in offices, you're down 40%. And if you're down 40%, you're broke, period, right? So I also think that there's a lot of ritualistic things that people used to do. Happy hour being one of them. Like, people used to work from 9 to 5, and you were happy at 5:01 because your workday ended. But now there is no beginning of work, and there is no end to work. So I think if you set happy hour to 95% of all 22 to 27-year-olds that used to do that on a regular basis, they would look at you and say, "Hey, boomer, I don't know what happy hour is."
I'm still in my pajamas finishing my Zoom.
Right, and for better and worse. They don't have a start, they don't have it. So that has all changed. You used to have, I don't know, I would think about like a coffee shop from 7 to 8 p.m., 7 to 8 a.m. would be incredibly busy because everyone needed to rush to get to their office by 9:01. And that's over, right? So I think everything has changed. The density has changed. It's become a challenge in New York. I think all the business are working through it, but there's a lot of problems. Rent isn't getting any cheaper. Labor is getting more expensive. Food product only costs more. So the only thing that you can do is to raise prices to try to meet people where they are. And the other thing is drinking, right? So drinking has gone down, and that's also an interesting thing. So you used to have a formula where it would be food percentage, beverage percentage, that would be your entire sale. And the profits on beverage are a 10x. The profits on food is a 2x. So a lot of times when you incorporate food and labor, if you're spending $10 on a burger, it costs $5 to make it, right? And that's before rent and before anything else and like that. But if you buy a $10 drink, it probably costs $1 to produce it.
Yeah.
So when people stop drinking, that's when the model has to change. So everyone said food's gotten more expensive, and we're simply saying, not necessarily, just everyone has pivoted their habits, so the business still needs to sustain.
I mean, so how have you made the numbers work? It sounds like an impossible equation.
For our particular business, I think people are still drinking, and it's still a part of what we do, and we're not purely a business. We're also social, and we're a lifestyle brand, and I think we take a little bit of everywhere. We take from tourism, we take from local New Yorkers, we take from people who do not have traditional jobs, as well as corporate people. So I think we try to find from other places, but look, you have to learn how to do more with less. That's a big philosophy at Catch Hospitality Group. We need to figure out, as long as the guest doesn't know that they're experiencing anything different, no one cares how the engine is run as long as the car gets them from A to B. So in our scenario, we are just very thoughtful on how we manage our labor, how we manage our food costs, and how we execute to make sure that the margins work. And again, because of our partnership with Landry's, because of the 40 years of history, I mean, I'm not as economically intelligent as Tillman Fertitta. I have not seen all the different recessions and depressions and all these other different things that he's seen over the last 40 years. But when you go through them, you know that you can get out of them. And on the other side of it, there is opportunity. And that's why, on the other side of COVID, that's became the opportunity of Miami, of Dallas, of Scottsdale, of the second brand. And without COVID, I don't know that we would be going into those markets.
Huh. Okay, so it has opened doors, just maybe not in New York necessarily.
And yeah, never let a crisis go to waste. And that's, in this scenario, we've made the changes and we pivoted our business to learn from that.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean though for New York? I mean, you said you think it's kind of coming back now, and you're seeing that in the hospitality.
I would say that as New Yorkers, we pay 50% taxes, and we don't ask for very much. I think we'll deal with urine streets and we'll deal with garbage, but I think the one thing we need is safety. And I think as long as there's safety, and I feel incredibly safe in New York these days, and I feel like those changes are being made. As long as that stays put, I think New York is just something that you can never recreate, and I think it has a special place in the world, and I don't think there's anything like it. And I think young people from wherever they're from, no matter what economic background, they need to come here and they need to live here. And if you want to be the best at anything, this is where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. And what's your take on alcohol? Because it seems like it's sort of in vogue, especially among Gen Z, to not drink. And obviously there are health benefits, but it seems like a trend. It seems like a fad to not drink.
Listen, everything trends, right? You have sugar-free, then you have fat-free, then you have low-carb, then you have high-carb, then you have big dresses, then you have small dresses, you have big hair, small hair, big clubs, small clubs, independent movies, big blockbuster hits. So everything is a cycle, and alcohol is something that's been with us for 5,000 years. I think it's going to be with us for 5,000 more. When people are happy, they drink. When people are sad, people drink, and it honestly just makes you feel better. So at some way or another, I think it all comes back into vogue. But look, we have a really cool non-alcoholic, we call it zero proof category at the corner store, and we're focused on creating unique drinks because people still want to taste something really great and have a great experience. And if they choose to do it without alcohol, we'll come up with other ways to make sure they have a fun experience and also hit our check average. So
smart.
Yep.
Smart. And I would love to hear a little bit about your story too, because I understand you were born in Russia.
Yeah.
And here you are running this huge restaurant empire, which is, I mean, hospitality restaurants, that's one of the most competitive, difficult businesses, especially, it's just very difficult to make a go of it. So how did you end up from Russia coming to New York? What was your journey?
I'll give you the quick 1-minute version. We came here when I was 3 years old from the Soviet Union, grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens, and Brooklyn, moved to New Jersey when I was 11 or 10, and I went to Hofstra University when I was 18 years old in Long Island, moved to New York at 22, started in the mailroom at a celebrity PR firm. I faxed a resume in, and someone came and saw me and said, there's no assistant position, but you can start in the mailroom, and it was $22,000 a year, and I did it, and I got to wear T-shirts to work, which is really was my must-have when you talk about when you write down your criteria. Met a lot of great people. Was connected to the Gerber Group, which at the time was Midnight Oil, and that's Scott and Randy Gerber, who own all the W hotels. And then I got connected to, after 2 years there, with Steve Hansen, who's an iconic restaurateur here in New York, and he gave me my first opportunity to oversee a bunch of venues and run a nightclub called Level V. It was in this up-and-coming area called the Meatpacking District. And from there, my partner Mark Birnbaum and I opened 10 June in 2006, which was our first nightclub. 2009, our first restaurant, Abe and Arthur's, with a second nightclub underneath. And then in 2011, we opened Catch, which was a 15,000 square foot, 300-seat restaurant. And we would have never imagined where it is today, but that's the story. And I was a terrible student. I just wasn't very good at school or anything with traditional corporate America, so this was my only route, to be quite honest with you. So it's not like I'm so special, it was just the only way that I was gonna actually feed myself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of luck, a lot of great opportunity, and a lot of great people along the way that have made this journey possible.
Are there gonna be more nightclub openings in the future?
Never say never, but it's highly unlikely. I think where we are in our current stage of the business is really focusing on food-oriented products. And when we opened Catch in 2011, it was experience first, food second. And that has completely pivoted. And in about 2016, we made a decision that if we want to be here and have the longevity we talked about, that we need to take a real hard look at our food product and make sure it's the best in the business. And I think it's interesting, there's some people who haven't been to a Catch in 5, 6, 7 years because they remember it from when they used to go out during the club days, and it would be unrecognizable to them because the level of attention to the food and to the service and to the quality would be something that they don't remember, because that was the big pivot that we made. And that's why these new locations, like in Dallas, like in Miami, like in Dallas, excuse me, I said Dallas, like in Miami, like in Scottsdale.
Dallas is it's a big, place.
Yes.
Deserves a couple mentions.
Yes. That's why I think those are going to work.
Yeah.
And so, I don't foresee, look, there's always going to be nightlife DNA.
Yeah.
Because I think it's in our blood and it's who we are. But I think the focus is creating amazing food experiences.
Yeah, and I mean, to an extent, people want that kind of nightlife experience at a restaurant, and I think.
I mean, you definitely want to curate an experience, and you want to feel something, because ultimately, the food is just to invoke an emotion and to make you feel good. So, of course, you want to have an experience, and of course, you want to pay attention to the music, and of course, you want to feel who's sitting next to you and how it all connects, and how the doorman greets you, to how the host team walks you, to every single aspect from the napkin. You want all of that. And I think that's the reason that we continue to be successful all these years later.
How do you train people to do that? Because that's one of the biggest challenges, obviously. There's a labor shortage.
Yeah.
And you want to get great people and enough people, which is not an easy thing to do.
I don't know that you can. I think you either have it or you don't. And I think there are people in every store that we focus on that create experiences, and they're born with it. And there's people that are great at math, and there's people that are great at reading, and there's people that are great at all different types of things, and they're not all the same people. And there's a place for the person who may not be the best experience curator, and they're better at operations and structures and systems and spreadsheets and operations, but maybe there are people who are truly just gifted to see you and make you feel. And what we do is try to find that balance in every one of our stores. Think of it like a sports team, right? Not everyone can be the shooter. Some people have to play defense, some people have to do different things. So we try to build a team that gets a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect salad, as I like to call it. You can't just have lettuce. So I think that's the interesting. So we try to find the people who have it in their DNA, and then we try to amplify that through our teachings. But the truth is, there's a lot of people who've been with this company for over a decade. And that's one of the things I'm most proud about for our company, is people who are loyal and continue to stay with us, and they continue to share the same DNA that we have. So even if I'm not there, or Mark isn't there, or Tillman isn't there, they still can create that same experience because it comes from the same ethos.
Yeah, interesting. How do you think that artificial intelligence, technology is going to change the game in the restaurant business in the next 5 years?
I'm not smart enough to know, is the honest truth. Right now I use AI to politely say no to people and send emails for things like that. So I am personally
when you're getting frantic texts, get me a reservation.
So I'm personally not using AI in that regards. Technology, a different conversation. I think there's definitely a way to see your numbers and see your sales, and also like camera systems so you can see what's happening in all the different restaurants. And I think there's a way to automate certain things that are brutal, like, I don't know, you left your credit card, right? So there's got to be a simpler way than waiting for 10 minutes on a phone for someone to see if your credit card was there. So we're working through that. But to be quite honest with you, the beauty and negative about this business is it's still very similar to the way the business was 40 years ago. The only difference between the book used to be a physical book. Now it's on a computer. So that's changed, but for the most part, you run the restaurant in a very similar manner than you did 40, 50 years ago.
And we touched on the labor shortage. Do you think that prices are going to come down at all?
Again, I'm not an economist. I think there's a strike right now at the ports.
Yeah.
And from what I'm told, that can be a really significant impact on pricing of things, because they literally take stuff off ships and send it to places, and we are the places that they send them to. So if those things cannot get into those trucks to go to our places, I think it could become a real challenge. But conceptually, it seems that things have stabilized a little bit. The best way a restaurant operates is if there is consistency. And the most challenging part of the last 5 years is that there's been none. Right, the best restaurant operates when you know how many coverage you're going to have on a Sunday, a Monday. You know where all your vendors are. You know who your team is going to work. That's where it becomes a well-oiled machine. In the last 5 years, there's been nothing. The only consistency has been inconsistency. Yeah. And that has to do with everything from COVID and everything with the shortages and all the different challenges. So anything that creates stability in the restaurant business is a good thing for the restaurant business.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know obviously this is focused on restaurants, but I do want to ask about Rumble, because you glazed over that. You casually started this incredible workout chain along the way. Is that still a focus for you, or do you want to do more in the workout space?
We started that in 2017, and we sold that to a publicly traded company several years ago. So I personally have nothing to do with it anymore, but very proud of the work that we did, and very proud that it continues to thrive, and it's now a different model, but it's all over the country, and for what I see, all over the world. So always grateful to be the seed that planted and created a tree that is a thriving brand that makes people feel better and employs thousands of people. It's certainly
start your morning there and then come to catch.
I mean, look,
dinner.
it's certainly something to be proud of that there is a brand that came from an idea from a group of people that now is all over the world, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. But for now, my focus is purely on the restaurants, and that's where my heart is, and that's where I want to be.
Any other thoughts on what can make a great brand?
I can't tell you the secret sauce on how everyone creates their brands. There are certain people who are indifferent about what they create. They want to, if there's a supply need in tiles, they'll sell tiles. If there's a supply need in cups, they'll sell cups. They just care about the business side of it. For me, and everything that I've ever done, I have to be a consumer of the product. I have to love the product, because I cannot create something that I personally do not love. So my success, or the group's success, has always been by creating products that we love, surrounding ourselves with really great people, and authentically doing it not from a place of making money. Now, money has to be an objective, because you have to take care of your family and you want to pay the bills, and that's good housekeeping, right? Like, you need structure in order to create a business, because a lot of people have great ideas, but without money it doesn't work. Right. So just like without legs you can't run. So I think it's important that you run your business, but ultimately every brand that we've ever been a part of, it started as an idea of, hey, I would like to eat here. I would like to work out here. I would like to sit here with my friends. I would like to sit here with my family. I think this is something that the people that I know and love would enjoy. And when they love it, then that amplifies to everybody else, and it becomes like what I call a family tree, where your core people love it, and then they tell people, and they tell people, and that's your extended roots. Steve Jobs always says that, marketing is ridiculous, right? Because if you have to market something, that means it's not good. And he's right and he's wrong, but for the things that we do, our marketing is truly just getting the people that we know and love to enjoy the product, and they will do the rest of the work.
Yeah, any other thoughts you want to add to about New York, operating here, why you've stayed here?
Yeah, I mean, I love New York City. I live in New York City. My home is in New York City. There's no place I feel more alive than New York City. I'm happy to travel to other markets, but my roots will always be here, because there's no place that I've ever stepped foot in that ever made me feel 1/100th as good as the way I feel in New York City. And I think young people and people who want to be the best at what they do want to come here, because there's nothing less than that's acceptable. And I think for me, it's very challenging to be on a beach and be a killer. I think LA is a beautiful place, but I think the weather's too good, and we need misery in our weather in order to have the ability to drive so much. But I think New York is just the best place on earth. I think I'm so happy to see what I've seen in the last 30 days, to see it alive, to see people traveling here, to see people coming after sporting events, to see people excited about the Knicks, to see people excited about the Mets, to see people excited about sports and concerts and all the things that make New York so amazing. It just feels so right now, and I'm just really excited about the future in the city.